All right, today we are diving into one of the most exciting and, yeah, one of the most complex consumer markets on the entire planet, India. It's a place where huge global brands can find unbelievable success, or they can fail spectacularly. So, what is the secret sauce? What does it take to win the trust of over 1 billion consumers? Let's get into it. First, just take a second to let this number sink in. Over 1.4 billion people. This isn't just a market, it's a whole universe of consumers. The potential for any company here is absolutely massive, but so is the potential to get it completely wrong. The stakes, they really couldn't be any higher. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the big prize. What makes this market so appealing? Then we'll uncover some of the hidden rules you have to play by. We'll also see what happens when trust is broken. And from there, we'll introduce a really powerful new strategy called Dignified branding and break down exactly what makes it work.
Okay, so we've established the scale is just staggering. But the real prize here, it isn't just about selling a ton of products. It's about forging a real, genuine, emotional connection. The brands that truly win in India get that lasting revenue comes from deep-rooted trust, not just a quick, one-off sale.
But here's the thing. To succeed here, you have to play by a totally different set of rules. For any international brand thinking a one-size-fits-all approach is going to fly, well, that's a huge mistake. You absolutely have to understand the unique cultural and economic landscape. And this breaks down a few of those hidden rules. First off, a lot of buying decisions are emotional. They're not always based on the best tech specs. They're often driven by a connection to a celebrity they trust. Second, there's this perception of premium brands as being elite, which can really limit their appeal to just the big metro cities. And finally, you've got these powerful political waves, like the Swadeshi movement, which basically means buy Indian, that can change consumer loyalty almost overnight. So, with a market this tricky and this sensitive, what happens when a brand messes up? Well, the fallout can be pretty severe and it can last a long, long time. And this isn't just a theory. We've got real-world examples of how fast things can go south. Just look at the experience of multi-level marketing companies like Amway. Because of some past scams in the country, totally unrelated to them, by the way, their own promoters often faced a wall of public mistrust and a serious credibility problem. It's a perfect example of how the market's history can create huge obstacles, even for a well-known global brand. And this quote just nails it. One wrong move. That's all it takes. One misleading ad or one overly aggressive sales pitch can do damage that is incredibly difficult, sometimes even impossible to come back from. When a market is built on trust, losing it can be a death sentence. Okay, so when you look at all these challenges, it becomes pretty clear that the old playbook, aggressive sales at any cost marketing, it's not just ineffective here, it's downright dangerous. Which brings us to a new, much more sustainable way of thinking, a strategy designed for this exact environment. So if the traditional way is full of landmines, what's the answer? How can a brand actually build the kind of trust it needs to not just survive, but to thrive for the long haul? Well, the solution, proposed by Mandeep Gupta, is something called dignified branding. The idea at its core is actually pretty simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Instead of chasing a quick win, you focus on building a solid foundation of integrity, transparency, and a deep respect for the consumer. It is a total shift in perspective. And this slide just lays out the difference perfectly. On the left, you've got that traditional aggressive style, often driven by greed and focused only on the next sale. But on the right, dignified branding completely flips the script. It's all about integrity, transparency, and respect, all to build something that lasts, sustainable growth. Okay, so that's the what. Now let's get into the how, because this isn't just some vague idea. It's a real framework. It's built on 4 clear, actionable pillars that any brand can actually start to implement. Let's really unpack these 4 pillars, because this is the heart of the whole strategy. First up, integrity. This means more than just being honest. It means your product does what you say it does, and your business practices are ethical, top to bottom. Next, transparency. In a market that's wary of scams, being radically open in how you communicate is like a superpower. No fine print, no misleading ads, just clarity. The third pillar is sustainable marketing. This is about changing your mindset. Forget the short-term sales targets. This is about building relationships that are going to last for years, even decades. And finally, respect. This one is so crucial. It's not just about respecting the customer. It's also about honoring your own marketing agents, the people on the ground. How you treat your own team is a direct reflection of your brand's true character. So what's the big payoff at the end of the day? Well, by taking this approach, a brand doesn't just make sales, it builds something priceless: long-term, resilient trust. It shields its reputation from the dangers of a sensitive market, and it lays down an ethical foundation for real, sustainable growth. And all of this leaves us with a final, big question to think about. In a world where brands are screaming louder and louder for our attention with more and more aggressive tactics, could it be that the quiet, consistent power of dignity is actually the ultimate competitive advantage?